I sense a trap.
Let's talk about Reva.
Yeah, sure, since she's the hero of the show.
She's impulsive, but always correct. She has a great sense of Kenobi. She can sense him on Tatooine. You already mentioned she knows Anakin's identity. She knows Vader's identity as Anakin. She knows that Leia is important. Somehow, no one was able to find the information that she found that connects Obi-Wan to Bail. She cuts off hands. She threatens. She screams. One point, she's going to kill Owen Lars and his entire family. And yet later, in the second episode, she's going to spare Haja, who has actually helped Obi-Wan. She has the powers of Kylo Ren. She has the power to see into your mind when it's convenient. She didn't Kylo a single person on Tatooine when it would have been really handy. Her parkour scene is laughable. She's doing the Marvel superhero thing over the city on the rooftops. She's knocking down things, running on them. She's doing completely unnecessary flips and weird leaps and crossing between buildings. It's quite ridiculous, but again, it's there to establish her as this incredibly powerful character. She's shown the most ability of any character in the show, and that's not an accident. She never listens to her boss or her colleagues. The Grand Inquisitor, he would have hurt her, possibly killed her for just what we've seen in the first 2 episodes, and yet all he's doing is threatening to take away her title and just be mean to her, which is not the Sith way. What say you?
I would concur with your assessment. I think that the portrayal of her character does not fit into the rules or the established order in the Star Wars universe. We've talked a lot about this in some of our other conversations. Check out our other videos. You create a world, a universe, the Star Wars universe. You create this thing called the Force, and it has certain characteristics, and it has certain rules about who has it and who uses it and how they use it and all those things. And then you do other things in this universe that don't align with the established rules. One of the things that you had mentioned is how the Sith operate. We've seen this in the other shows, Clone Wars and Rebels, and we've obviously seen it in the prequels and the original trilogy. And the Sith don't mess around with any kind of disobedience. There's no room for the sarcastic Sith person, right? The Sith, Obi-Wan Kenobi shows up to a battle and he's like, "Hello there, another happy landing," and he's always got a pithy comeback, and he's kind of got a little bit of sass about him, and he's out there kicking butt. And the Sith don't have time for that. They're there to conquer and destroy and control. And that's their enemies and their allies. If anybody talks back to Vader or to Palpatine, some of the other people in the Star Wars universe that are bad guys, like Thrawn and Tarkin, to a point, you get hurt, if not killed. This whole thing about her being this like petulant teenager, doesn't listen to anybody, doesn't follow the rules, disrespects everybody, gets in everybody's face. Like, I have a hard time accepting that over the last 10 years, as she has grown from former Padawan to this Inquisitor role, that she hasn't been properly humbled by her bosses, right? Vader or the Grand Inquisitor or others. So it's this thing that stands out. And then, yes, the bringing in of all the sequel era Force stuff is annoying, but what's more annoying is, to the point that you brought up, is that when you should have used it, you didn't. And yeah, just so many inconsistencies. And again, it's not her character per se. Clearly, Dave Filoni was not involved in this production. Dave Filoni might not give you the best Star Wars television ever, but he's not going to give you stuff that is canonically unsound. He and George pretty much came up with everything after the prequels. He spent a lot of years hanging out with George, figuring out, learning, and understanding how Star Wars works. And the fact that he's not, involved in this show in a meaningful way is painfully obvious when we look at some of the stuff that has been allowed to happen with the characters and with the timeline and with just in-universe stuff that doesn't make any sense. The whole thing with the Grand Inquisitor that we'll get to, which could play itself out in many different ways over the course of the show, but potentially wrecked other shows or eliminated other shows from the canon simply because you want to make this particular character, Reva, look... I'm assuming it's supposed to make her look powerful, but it really just makes her look unhinged. And for the parkour stuff, this television series has a problem with people running. Okay, the children who run look like they're not really running; they look like they're half running. And in the scene at the beginning when they're trying to get out of the temple, nobody's full on sprinting. It feels very orchestrated and choreographed, and the parkour thing looks horrible. Whatever special effecty thing that they're trying to use to make her look like she's bouncing around, they need to go back and watch The Matrix, because that actually works. And whatever they're doing on this show does not. She looked like she was moving slowly, and when she was bouncing around and floating and stuff, she moved very slowly. And if you're supposed to be in pursuit of someone, you should be moving fast. It just felt again like the speeder chase in Book of Boba Fett. Everything's moving at like half speed, and it almost becomes a joke. And again, that's not necessarily on her, the actress, but it's on the special effects folks and the people doing post-production. But in our acceptance of this character, or our reception of this character, and how we feel about her, and she's like, she can't control her emotions. She can't follow orders. She has no particular policy or procedure when it comes to doing anything as an Inquisitor. She's just this mad obsession with Kenobi that we don't even understand why this is a thing. Like, why is she so mad at Kenobi? We don't even know. Like, we haven't gotten that backstory yet, and who knows if we even will. It's unfortunate, right? This character could be very interesting. We hopefully will learn more about the Inquisitors and how that stuff works. But I'm losing faith in this writing team after 2 episodes. We're a third of the way through the series now, and poorly written, flat characters, and this person, Reva, who's supposed to be this key character in this series, probably when we go back and look at it, is going to be considered the hero of the show. And if you look at all the marketing that's come out of Celebration this week, and all the toy releases and the new HasLab and all that stuff, clearly she is the focus. But this is a recurring thing now with Disney Star Wars, and it's just not good. Not good at all.
As far as her unhinged behavior, there's something missing, and I don't want to blame the actress, but the character as she's portrayed, aggressive and angry, I'm taking her behavior seriously enough, and yet there's some part of me that's not fully buying into it, believing it. Help me. What is missing here? What's the missing piece?
Well, one of the missing pieces is motivation, right? We were shown that she was a Padawan learner, and that her master, or her teacher, or whatever, was killed, and that others around her were killed, and that she escaped. Okay, you would think that her motivation would be to fight the Sith, or to come back and avenge the Jedi Order in some way. But if she turns into an Inquisitor, then, well, we've lost that motivation. Comments, from the other characters, the other Inquisitors, and her, are they trying to set her up as the Qui-Gon of the Inquisitors? Like, well, if you'd only just do what the Council wants, you'd be a master by now. It's like, well, Reva, if you stop chopping off hands and being a complete wackadoo, you might actually be Grand Inquisitor by now. But the other thing is that you can buy a character who is completely insane and crazy and violent, but the structure of the organization that you have placed this character in, there's no room for that. Those structures do not accept that kind of behavior. She is a member of the Empire. She's part of the Imperial hierarchy. She has a rank, a job, a title, a mission. So it's not, I think that the disconnect that we have, or the cognitive dissonance that we're experiencing with this character, is that it's not necessarily the character type that's being written. It's how or where this character is being placed in the story. It's almost a non-starter. It's like the character, you want to take the character seriously, you want to try and understand it, but we haven't been given any cues in the story at all, other than the fact that her coworkers hate her. She may or may not have been a youngling at the temple when the slaughter happened. There's too many pieces there that don't fit. I can see why you're having this thing where you look at her and you listen to her talk and you're like, what is going on?
Villains drive stories more important than heroes. We root for the heroes. We don't cheer for villains. But I'm searching the show for compelling villains, and I'm supposed to begin and end with Reva, but I think the best scene of villainy in the entire show is the Grand Inquisitor stalks around the saloon and explains the process of hunting Jedi. He's savoring the moment. It's evil. He's drawing out something that could be handled more quickly, but you get the sense that there's enjoyment, and that's what's frightening. That's a villain. Reva hasn't really had a scene like that one to explain her, or to me anyway, it's far more frightening to have villains who are fully in control. Now, we realize, for the sake of the story being told, not necessarily for the sake of telling a good story, but for the sake of the story being told, we understand why the Jedi must escape, why the second scene must end with an escape. And you're talking about new force powers. I'll bet that you didn't expect awning break. I don't recall that from any of the video games. I don't know if that was XX triangle square. I don't know what that was, but awning break is apparently a Jedi power that foils Inquisitors. This escape is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. There are 3 Inquisitors. The Jedi flees on foot, does not take out a lightsaber. We see later that the Jedi has a lightsaber to use, but this is again, we're trying to increase the stakes. We're trying to build stakes, not diminish them. I hated the breaking of the awning and running away, and that was enough to escape 3 Inquisitors.
This is something that we see a lot in these TV shows. The convenience or the contrivance or we have to have a thing so we can get to the next thing. And that thing can be so absurd and silly and out of place in the Star Wars universe, but we don't care because it gets us to the next thing. It's like you mentioned earlier about Reva and the whole having discovered or understanding the link of Leia to Obi-Wan. Right, just go to Alderaan and grab the girl and wait for Obi-Wan to show up. Right, this whole thing about, we're going to have Nihilist number 2 from the Big Lebowski, capture your daughter and take her to a whole nother place so then we can trap Obi-Wan in that place and all, it's silly is really what it is.
Galactic Initiative is not authorized or endorsed by Lucasfilm Limited. The name Star Wars and all related materials are registered trademarks of Lucasfilm Limited, a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company, all rights reserved. Galactic Initiative is a registered trademark, and other product and company names are trademarks of their respective holders. Use does not imply affiliation or endorsement.